We're back in that gin clear water now, like we were on the other end. Like I'm looking at that spinnerbait. Now I got the right skirt on there. I can't see anything but the blades until the skirt gets close. And I put that perch colored skirt on there because I don't think these fish, they ain't eating shad. You know what I mean? I doubt there's anything here that looks like a shad. Like they're eating shiners and bluegill. And well, typically in real clear water, I changed skirts. I had a white skirt on there, which really stood out, and which was okay if I thought these fish were eating shad, but I don't think there is a shad population here. I think probably the dominant forage is tilapia, wild shiners, bluegill. So I went to a perch colored skirt that pretty much covers in that clear water that looks like all three of those fish. And like it doesn't stand out now. I can see the blades coming, but I can't see that skirt. And when that water's gin clear like that, you want something natural. Fish are aggressive. Spinnerbait's an aggressive type lure. It's a power bait, It's niche in that you gotta have the right conditions for it, but everything is setting up right for it. When it's slick, by far a lure that's on top, is better because they see so well, but when you get good wind, we got clouds, a lot of wind, subsurface lures are, just great lures for covering water and finding fish. Not only finding them, but catching them, And again, we know these fish are bait eaters, and I like that. This is a Hack Attack Select, it's holding 4 blades, so it's puts off a lot of flash. Almost looks like a school of bait fish. It's just a spinnerbait that in clear water now, predominantly is the bait that I throw. I just have so much confidence in it. It's great for burning it or just crawling it because it pushes a lot of water because it has all those blades, and I don't think they see it a lot. I think they see more traditional 2-bladed willow leafs, double willow leafs the most. That's a spinnerbait that I don't throw as much. I throw more I would go more to the double willow leaf and more off-colored, a little dirtier water, bigger blades, but I like the 4 blades and they're smaller, in just gin clear water. I have more flash than you would with 2 blades, but also those 4 blades are pulling more water. You can tell how the bait pulls. See how it loads my rod? I mean, it pulls a lot of water, and I like that. And then when I hop it, like when I pitch it in on something and I hop it up, you got 4 blades, it just looks so good to them, they gotta have it. I think that was the same, that same deal with the Alabama rig, that here's a whole school of bait. I can't turn that down. Now you throw one out there and reel it in, and he can take it apart. And I think that multi-bladed spinnerbait is that same way. It's just so much going on that it just triggers that bite. We probably got a 10, 15 mile an hour wind, clear water, a lot of cover. Good places for those fish to set up on the wind, in theory, right on the ends of these cattail points, that wind blowing in there on them is just, perfect place for those fish to set up and feed. There he is, right on into that point where he was supposed to be at. Not a big bass, but an aggressive one. But he was right on the end of that point. When the water's clear, again, I stick with a, either a double willow leaf or the quad willow leaf that I'm throwing here. And even when the water's colder, when it's clear, it's a little higher rate of speed the way you fish it. Now, with that being said, in the spring, a lot of times that's when the dirtiest water you'll find. Well, then I like a Colorado or a turtle blade is also one of my favorite. It's kind of an in-between between a willow and a Colorado. And then it's more of a slow, the dirtier the water, the slower the rate of speed I would wind that spinnerbait. Here right now we got, it's just clear water and it's warm. The last couple of days it's been really warm, so I got that bait coming at a pretty high clip. But regardless, in the springtime, this to me is probably the 2 best times of the year to throw a spinnerbait are in the spring, pre-spawn, during the spawn, and post-spawn. When the shad, because then what you got another deal that's happening then, the shad go to spawning on a lot of lakes, and that's another time when that spinnerbait, it looks like what they eat. But just think about it like this. Clearer the water, the flashier the spinnerbait, the willow leaf blades, the dirtier the water, the more thump you want. Make it easier for that fish to find the bait. And that's when, like I said, that's when I stick with more Colorado or a turtle bladed spinnerbait. And just look for the obvious. Basically that fish I just caught on the most obvious place. We've got a northwest wind. And the fish set up right on the end. You know, it's just a perfect place for them to feed, right where that wind's blowing in on those cattail heads. And a spinnerbait, like a crankbait, you know, it's just like cranking a log or something. You'll crank that log all over till you get it in the right direction. That spinnerbait is the same deal. I like to hit the cover with it. You know, I like to clip it around those cattails. And that change of action in that bait will get that bite. You know, a lot of times I'll burn that bait back about halfway and then pop it a little bit, give it something different, you know, let off the reel handles and then restart it. And a lot of times that'll trigger, you know, that'll cause that fish to commit. Right on the end, same place the other one was. And again, just a kind of a medium fast retrieve seems to be the deal. And that clear water will just make me want to reel that bait faster. You know, you want them to catch it, they can see it. But you see how now I'm going from head to head, and I'm basically just keying right there on the front, because that seems to be where they want to be set up at. And you know, basically that's just a place where they're a great place for them to ambush, and anything that's swimming along with that wind swims by them, they're right there. It's a fun bait to fish with. It's the bait I learned to fish with. When I was growing up, that was the bait. Caught my first bass on a spinnerbait. You know, it just seemed like sometimes we reeled it fast and sometimes we slow rolled it. Seemed like hot summertime we caught them on it, you know. Now I grew up in a part of the country where the water was shallow and had a lot of cover. And I mean, they just bite a spinnerbait, you know. Caught a lot of big ones on a spinnerbait. And it's just always been something that I've liked to throw. But I went through a period of time, you know, in the last 10 years when I didn't throw it much, you know. It also seemed like we went through a period of time where our lakes were cleaner, you know. We didn't have much high water, like the right conditions for it. And it just, I mean, I don't know that it was ever completely forgotten about, but it wasn't a staple. You know, at one time it was always a staple. It's really coming back for a lot of people. You know, the other cool thing about it is it's that lure you get, you know, 10 bites on, most days you catch 8 or 9 of them, you know. Fish are not bad to miss it. They typically commit when they come on when they come after that spinnerbait. Now, you know, like choosing the speed on a spinnerbait's a little different from, like I'd say 90% of my spinnerbait fishing with a 6-4 to 1. You know, it's typically fast enough. And then, you know, certain occasions I'll use a 7-4. You know, I'm burning a smaller spinnerbait in extremely clear water or something. But most of the time, that 6-4 to 1 will pull that spinnerbait as fast as I need it. And a 6-4 to 1 has a lot of power, so it doesn't work you. You know, it's pretty efficient and it's easy on the fisherman. And again, you always want to use the right equipment for whatever technique you're using, just so you do a better job at that technique. Because if you don't use the right equipment, you won't get as many bites. You won't enjoy the experience as much, you know.